Alright, boys, we're doing it. We're taking the FZ out. Because it's been a minute, you know? I don't really ride this bike as much as we should. And she's a damn good bike. In spite of her flaws. I've decided that when I do these rides, I should have a topic that I talk about. And just shoot from the cuff, you know. Not really have like a plan of, oh, I did research and, well, maybe, I don't know, but as far as having a script or something, yeah, I'm on a bike, dude, like but the subject I would like to talk about today is MK Ultra. Now, for those of you who don't know what MK Ultra is or what that means, it was a government PSYOP, which is short for psychological operation, performed on the American people in the 60s, 70s, 80s maybe, who knows exactly. Came out during the Church Commission, which stopped a whole bunch of things that the government was doing, experimental stuff that the government was doing on the American people, violations of the Nuremberg Code, etc., etc. But one of the things that came out was MK Ultra. Well, what is MK Ultra? MK Ultra was a mind control program wherein the government would use various persuasion techniques and brainwashing and other techniques that they had, like drugs and such, to influence people to get them to do what they wanted them to do. And the famous movie is the Manchurian Candidate, in which they MK Ultra'd someone into killing the president. All this is known. I mean, the movie Killing the President, maybe not, but the MK Ultra program and what it was used to do, all real, right? This is research that the government did, presumably so that they would have the ability to, I don't know, Manchurian Candidate, MK Ultra, mind control someone into doing something in the future at a future point after that, i.e. today, in which they would employ those methods and techniques and research that they did to get people to do something that they wanted, i.e. Manchurian Candidate, kill the president. Fast forward to today. What's going on with the media? Do you think it's possible that they're pointing these methods of persuasion techniques that they've had to influence people today to target people like Donald J. Trump or Charlie Kirk, or, I mean, other examples of right-leaning people who are either politicians and or talking heads, you know, like the media pundits, etc., have all reported, and this is also undeniable, and especially since Charlie Kirk, an incredible increase in the number of death threats and attempts that have happened against them, you know? Ooh. Anyway. So the thought is that these media organizations are intentionally using messaging and phraseology, if you want to call that a term, where they're attempting to influence a number of people And even if that's a small number that end up actually being influenced, say, like a per capita, like that's per 100,000, like 1 or 2 per capita, that's all you need. Because you've got 350 million people in this country. So if you have 2 per capita, you've got 7,000 people in this country who are currently brainwashed and primed to, if they can get the opportunity, if they're smart enough, if they have the tools and the talents, that they would take a shot. 7,000 people, and that's if it's 2 per capita. I mean, it could be way higher than that. You see the fucking response to what happened to Charlie Kirk, the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the political he's now a martyr. He got killed for his religious and political beliefs. And if you get killed for believing in Jesus, what does that make you? And people cheered for that. People in this country cheered for that a whole fucking lot. Gleefully cheering for the murder of a Christian man, of a father who, as far as I can tell, never hurt anybody. The only thing that he ever did was make arguments that people didn't like. And apparently in this country today, people have been brainwashed enough to at least think that political assassinations, if you're on the wrong side of the aisle, what's up, bro? Or if you're on the correct side of the aisle, according to them, is either excusable or inexcusable. But it's dependent upon the political beliefs of the person, doing the act. And so, like, when we're talking about this, I'm thinking about my own experience in a time that I was brainwashed, when I watched the TV and I believed things that weren't true. And I'm kind of old, I made it around the sun 43 times now. Post-zygote. But, yeah, basically, the thing that got me was Waco, Texas. And if you watch the channel, I've talked about this multiple times, but I'll talk about it again right now. When the standoff at Waco happened, there were, a couple agents that got killed, and a couple of Branch Davidian people that got shot by the agents, including their dogs and stuff, and, there was the mainstream media version of events, which, at the time, the mainstream media was the only version of events that I knew of. I'm sure, obviously, if you were in with the Branch Davidians or certain groups would probably have an insight into what was happening beyond the mainstream media point of view, but especially back then, that was a lot more rare. The mainstream media had a stranglehold on the narrative that would go out to the people much more than they do today. I mean, today you've got the internet, and you've got, podcasts and all kinds of things where information is disseminated in ways that they're not really cool with. So it's a lot different environment today, and they tried to cancel a whole bunch of things so that they could get that stranglehold back on the American people, which they failed at because of Elon Musk, who is now a Nazi according to that ideology. Another target of their ire and of the hatred and the lies, of course, is Elon Musk. Once a darling of the left, once a hero, a champion of saving the earth and, environmentalism. And they were firebombing his fucking dealerships. People who had Teslas were getting their cars fucking destroyed and vandalized, and, and why? Well, because people are brainwashed, and they're made to think that whatever, Ooh, wheelie practice with the FZ? That's scary. Let's try it. This thing is fucking scary. It makes so much power. Nah, I can't. I'm too much of a pussy, man. Honestly, I am. Badfish was right. So anyway, at the time, if you guys remember, this standoff went on for almost 2 months. You know, it was forever. And every single day for that entire time, it was the first like 24-hour news cycle that I can remember, where there was just like, you'd wake up in the morning and they're talking about it, you go to sleep at night, they're talking about it, the next day the same thing, for 2 fucking months. And they pushed the idea very hard, very clearly, that the Branch Davidians were a cult, and that David Koresh was a cult leader and thought that he was Jesus and he was abusing children, and that the women were being raped and that the men were being cucked, and all of these things, right? Well, it turned out there was a whole other side to the story that we weren't told, wherein David Koresh was not a cult leader, but a pastor, right? And that the Branch Davidians were not a cult, but a branch offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventists, which were themselves a branch offshoot, I believe, and I could be incorrect about this, but Jehovah's Witnesses. They were like 1 or 2 steps of separation between Jehovah's Witnesses, which is definitely a 100% valid, recognized, non-taxable church entity, right? But because they liked guns and they were afraid of the government, they were targeted. And because of that target, they were lied about, because they had to be demonized in order for them to be targeted and for people to be okay with it. And so they did that. And since there was almost 2 months of uninterrupted coverage of this targeting, the brainwashing was very strong, particularly in this case. And for myself, this was the first case where it was like honestly, bro, they brainwashed people. What is this? Skate park. Little skate park. Look at this. Look at this little skate park. So anyway, eventually what happened? Well, eventually they got tired of the standoff, and the government through the media had propagandized people enough to where I believe that they believed that they were able to do whatever they wanted to these people, and the majority of the American people would be okay with it. And so they burnt that church down with children inside, and people of Christ, believers, followers of Jesus, and readers of the Bible, regardless of what you think about the particular, sect of beliefs that they had, that's what they were. That church burned down with children inside of it. And to my everlasting shame, I cheered. I'm not going that way, fuck that. I was happy. I was happy that those people got what they deserved. That guy who thought he was Jesus is now in hell burning, and, you know, that the children are probably better off because, you know, they were being raped or whatever. So, I mean, it sucks that they burned to death, but it's better that they're dead than being raped, I guess. So there was that, and all of the justifications in the world were available. Because they had dehumanized these people. They had made them into a pariah, into a obvious target. Look at this guy. Is that a scooter? Scooter McCooter? No, that's a race bike. I think that was a Ninja. So that, to me, in my life, was the clearest example of brainwashing in which I was the unwilling victim. It took, about 10 years, give or take, for me to go back and look at things objectively and say, like, I wonder if there's any new information about this. And I watched a couple of documentaries, and then I watched some interviews with some people who were there, who were part of the Branch Davidians, and found out that there was a whole story that we didn't know, you know? There's a whole story of psychological operations and terror against the people who were inside of that compound to get them to give up and come out. There were murders that happened by the government, and I won't even go into the facts. Like, you guys can believe me or not believe me, look into it or not for yourself. But honestly, bro, it's pretty obvious to me, looking back with hindsight, 2020 vision, exactly what that was. And having that information, once you see that, once you know that that's there, once you know that that's a thing, you kind of see it everywhere, because it's kind of happening everywhere right now. Like, they took lessons that they learned from that even, and they're applying it to today. I knew you were going to do that. Well, that's my story, boys. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I'm wrong, like the Yankee Marshal? You just want to talk over me so my point can't be heard? Drop a comment in the comment section below if you feel a certain kind of way. And everybody, I hope you guys enjoy your evening or day or whatever it is that you're doing right now. And deuces, y'all. Shall not pee in fridge. Trooper to shabba to pressure. Batacath care. Prick the troops. 2 words. Made in America. And we'll see you all next time. Deuces!